Hello and welcome to the final episode of Our Gifted Kids podcast for 2021. It's quite honestly close to midnight, and it's the eve of Christmas Eve with only a few days left to the big day. But I had to get one last episode out. And I thought it was poignant to do a replay of the Santa episode from last year, largely because a few days ago I was in a situation and I needed it. And I couldn't remember exactly how the Santa talk went. So I thought, let's do a replay of that episode because it's a really great way of getting through the whole Santa thing, especially with gifted kids, but any kids as well. So stay tuned for that. When I did that episode last year, it was on the cusp of our eldest not believing. And if you've got little ears about, maybe pop some headphones in so that they don't hear this episode because it's one for grown-ups. So this year, a few days ago, actually, no, let me take a step back. So I did that episode last year, as you will hear, and at that time I had all three children going along with the Santa thing. But shortly after I published that episode, we did indeed have the chat, as per the podcast, with our eldest, and we got him involved in being Santa. And it was, I have to say, a really treasured memory from last Christmas. And it worked beautifully, and it was really enjoyable to include him in on the whole Santa thing. And then a few days ago, out of the blue, our youngest two bring up the Santa thing. And I really wasn't ready for this. And I was caught off guard, and I couldn't exactly remember how the Santa chat went from last year. And I was a bit flustered, to be honest, because I thought they were happily going along with this. And I was very surprised when my middle child went, "No, I remember last year I got up for a wee and I went to the bathroom and you were both standing in front of the tree trying to hide the presents. And there were definitely presents behind you." And I laughed because I totally remember that. Like most parents, we were up late Christmas Eve wrapping gifts. It was towards the end of that saga, which I don't know, it always seems to take hours. And as as she often does, my middle child woke up, went to the bathroom, and we're madly standing in front of the Christmas tree so that she doesn't see the gifts under there and kind of put two and two together. And she just does her thing. She goes back to bed, and we're like fist pumping, going, "Yeah, phew, we totally got through that." Only to learn 12 months later that she was onto it. She did not miss a thing. She spotted the gifts that just went back to bed. And that was cute. That was really cute. And so I have now re-listened to last year's Santa episode, and I'm ready for the possible chat that's going to happen. It's only a couple of days to Christmas. I think we'll probably get through this Christmas, but there's definitely going to be some conversations prior to next Christmas, if not earlier. And I look forward to that. I look forward to them all kind of being on the Santa thing and seeing what we can do with that as a family. So I'll give you another update next year on where the Elliott family is with Santa. But before I replay, I wanted to just take a moment to have a quick look and think about 2021. As it comes to the end of the year, you can't help but look back and reflect on the year that has just been. And I distinctly remember getting to the end of 2020 and just feeling like, oh my God, thank God that year is over. Like 2020 just was so hard. It was such a hard year for everyone. And I got to the end of that. I'm like, I can't wait. I remember feeling so excited for 2021 because it was going to be so amazing. And I've I've got to be honest, 2021 just totally kicked my butt. And I know I'm not the only one. It has been another hugely intense year. It's just been full on. And in many ways, kind of worse than 2020. I don't know. it's just been a really intense year. There have been it's been an amazing journey. If I think back 12 months ago, this time of the year, I did the Santa episode, and I kind of released a handful of podcasts. I remember thinking, "Oh my god, what have I done? How am I gonna get through another year of creating podcasts and talking to people?" And I don't know, just telling people that I have gifted children and talking about, some challenging topics and just kind of putting myself out there. It was quite scary. It was very early days. And 12 months later, I'm cool with that now. I am happy to be that person. The journey this year has been amazing, nothing short of amazing. There have been so many wonderful people on the podcast. I just feel incredibly humble every time someone gets in touch or says yes. And we have had some great episodes. Like, as a parent of gifted kids, I have learnt so much this year from those episodes. And I hope that you have too. And I know that you have, because I've had all these wonderful comments and emails from folk reaching out, and that has really helped to know that we're going in the right direction, that this is filling a need, because I know that need. I feel that need personally, but it's nice to know that it resonates with other people as well. And so, yeah, a lot has happened in that 12 months. As we end the year, we have very close to 25,000 downloads, which kind of floors me. So thank you very much for listening. And we've had some real highs. I've got to say, doing the Gifted, Talented Neurodiversity Awareness Week, that was brought to us by the G Word and all the partners, was an absolute hoot. I love collaborating and working with people, and it was really nice to produce that alongside the GTN Awareness Week. And I'm really excited about what we might do next year now that I have a bit more time to think about it. We also have Gifted Awareness Week here in Australia, and so I'm looking forward to what we might do with that this year as well. There's lots of folk following on Instagram and Facebook and in our Facebook group, and like I really appreciate that. I still feel kind of like, "Oh my god, wow, really?" And it's really lovely. So thank you. I think I just kind of wanted to end the year saying parenting gifted kids is hard, and it's actually harder. And I've always kind of maintained that parenting, full stop, is hard, and it totally is. Oh my god, that first child, there's a serious learning curve, and parenting is never easy. But what I have learnt this year is actually some validation that parenting these really complex kids is really hard. And even found some research recently, through a podcast that I will share with you early next year, that actually shows us that parenting gifted kids is as stressful as parenting a child with a physical disability. And that really struck me. I kind of wanted to share that because I think it's really important to have that sense of validation, because it can be easy to think, I'm just not doing it right. It's me. Everyone else seems to have this parenting thing sorted, and I must be a train wreck because I find it really hard, and clearly it's me and I'm not doing it right. And I think it actually helps to kind of go, actually, it's not just me. I mean, there are bits of it that's probably me, but actually, it's not just me. It is hard. Like, it is incredibly stressful. And, our children rely on us for much longer. We're there to co-regulate with them, assist them with their executive functioning, their asynchronous development for much longer, as in like years extra than what would be typical. And that is hard. Sustaining that level of energy and engagement for year after year takes a toll on us as parents. It empties the well. And that's something that hit home really hard for me this year. And I know like absolute ton of parents that I know that I was totally burnt out this year. Like 2021 absolutely kicked my butt. And I was completely burnt out, and I had to kind of come face to face with how hard it is, and also the toll that that has taken on me, giving, 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 and trying to come face to face with how do I rest? What actually rejuvenates me? How do I get to the other side of this burnout and be that person who has energy and vitality, that person that I used to be, and I feel like I haven't been for a really long time. And so we're gonna deep dive into that because I am not alone. I was actually talking to someone recently, and they were saying that it's basically global. We're all actually completely knackered, whether you have gifted children or not. COVID has burned us out. This state of kind of hyper vigilance, of ongoing uncertainty has burnt us all out. That just kind of never knowing what to do, what's going to happen for 2 years now has actually burnt us out globally. And so, if you add on to that the challenges of parenting really complex little individuals that need a lot of additional support for a lot longer, you've got a recipe for burnout. So, come January, stay tuned. We're going to deep dive into that and have a really good look at rest and burnout. I can't end this year and this episode without saying some thank yous. First of all, for my family and friends, and my community, thank you. I absolutely couldn't have done this without your support and an ongoing, I don't know, it's just the cheer squad. It's just really nice to have people around you that believe in you and what you're doing and can give you that sense of confidence and the drive to keep going when you're just really knackered and having a bit of self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all those other wonderful things. So thank you so much to my family and friends. I also have to say a massive thank you to all of the guests that we've had on the podcast. I'm constantly, what's the word? I feel very humbled for the amazing caliber of guests that get in touch or say yes when I get in touch with them, and the generosity of spirit that they've all had to share their wealth of knowledge. Like, some truly amazing people, absolutely delighted to share what they know with us so that it can make our parenting journey that much easier. And it's been an absolute delight, and a huge thank you to all of the guests. I can't wait to see where we end up next year, and hopefully a few of our guests revisiting us and having new people on the show. Also, an absolutely massive thank you to my founding members. I very quietly launched the Our Gifted Kids Hub membership a few months ago. And it was quiet because I was a bit nervous about it. And I have a bunch of founding members, and I'm hugely grateful to you for coming on this journey over the last few months with me as we've kind of built this hub together and felt our way through that together. My vision for Our Gifted Kids was always to have this place where people can come to find the information, the resources, and the professionals that they need to get through this parenting journey to make it easier. And it's hugely exciting to me that we're starting to build that hub out. And stay tuned for, I don't know, for opportunities to get involved in the hub next year as that grows, because that's been just hugely exciting to to develop that and grow that. So thank you so much for those founding members that come on that journey with me. So thank you. Thank you for listening and following on social media and in the Facebook group. I really do personally appreciate it. And I just can't wait to see in 12 months' time, looking back and seeing what we've done, where we've got to. And I say we because for me, it's a real collaboration of people, of everyone involved. So thank you. Merry Christmas and have a wonderful new year. Stay tuned in January for our deep dive into rest to kick the year off. Keep an eye out for the Our Gifted Kids Hub membership opportunities as they come up and a bit more info about that. I'm really excited to see where we go, largely because, just quietly, my youngest goes to school next year. So I'm like, oh my God, 5 days at school. What can I accomplish with 5 days of all 3 children being at school? So I'm personally incredibly excited to see what I might get up to next year after a very much needed rest. So the podcast will return late January, and we will do 2 seasons. They'll be fortnightly. We'll have a break in the middle of the year, and we'll have a break at Christmas. And this is a wonderful journey. Thank you for joining me, and enjoy the Santa replay. Cheers. Bye.
Hi, I'm Sophia Elliott. As a parent of 3 gifted kids, I'm here to talk about all things gifted. Because I've been isolated and uncertain, and I felt like that parent, then I found peace of mind, support, and my community. This podcast is about sharing that journey, actually parenting gifted kids, and connecting with advice and support. So we have everything we need for every member of our family to thrive. This is the Our Gifted Kid podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. I'm delighted to be having a chat with you today because today we're talking top secret parent talk about Santa.
Hi, I'm Sophia Elliott. As a parent of 3 gifted kids, I'm here to talk about all things gifted because I've been isolated and uncertain, and I felt like that parent. Then I found peace of mind, support, and my community. This podcast is about sharing that journey, actually parenting gifted kids, and connecting with advice and support. So we have everything we need for every member of our family to thrive. This is the Our Gifted Kid podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Christmas edition of Our Gifted Kids podcast. Today we're talking top secret parent talk about Santa. So if you have little ears nearby, I'm going to pause for a moment so you can slip on some headphones and listen to the podcast in absolute secrecy and confidence. Okay, go do it now. That's it. Right. Are we ready? Parents, let's talk Santa. If you're like me and you've got 3 or gifted children or children, then inevitably you get questions about Santa. And so as parents, how do we deal with this? I know with our kids, like many parents of gifted kids, you get lots of questions. Lots of questions. Over and over again. All day you get questions. And we always try to answer those questions truthfully, honestly, with information and facts and figures, because we can get very deep in some of the questions that we have. But when it comes to Santa, it can be a bit tricky for parents. So I don't want to lie to my children, but how do we deal with Santa? I know that when we had our first child, my husband and I sat down, had a conversation about Santa. How were we going to approach the whole Santa thing? Eventually, we were like, yeah, okay, we're going to do Santa. We're going to do the magic of Christmas, the spirit of Santa. And so we have 3 children who I think still believe in Santa. There was a period a couple of years ago where our eldest asked lots of questions. And sometimes I get a sense that he's going along for the ride. He's very science-based child. into rockets and space travel, so I'm sure that the questions he has about how Santa delivers gifts around the entire world in one single night would be deep. But I think at the moment he's going for the flow because we have a younger 4-year-old who is just really getting into the groove of Christmas. And it's still very, very exciting. And a 6-year-old who is still very much in love with Christmas. But I feel as though there is a conversation coming. It hasn't happened this year, but I have a feeling it might be soon. So what are we going to say to him when we talk about Christmas? Well, I remember reading this post on Facebook quite a few years ago, and I really loved it. And at the time I told my husband all about it, and he's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So I did a bit of digging today to see if I could find that post, which is like a needle in a haystack on Facebook, but I did actually manage to find reference to it in an article online. And I would love to credit this post to someone, but the best I can do is an anonymous parent. Even the article had no idea where it came from originally, but it's beautiful. And it talks about the idea of Santa. So with our children, we have lots of conversations about facts and figures, and they're very much true. But I think what's interesting is there is a truth based on fact, and there is also a truth based on legend. And I think, of course, Santa comes into this category. Santa himself is based on a real person, St. Nicholas, who gave presents to children and cared for those who are less fortunate. And there's a real history around that person. And then, of course, the legend grew from that. And we can thank a certain soft drink provider for the current form of Santa in his jolly red coat, and a bit of clever marketing for the Santa that we have today. But nonetheless, the truth of that legend grew from a truth based in fact a long time ago. And I think that explanation in part is one that gifted children will understand and appreciate. So a part of this conversation that I read about on Facebook is based in that idea of Santa as truth and Santa as legend. And I was able to find it, so I'm going to actually read it out because it's a bit lovely. So this particular parent says, when your child is of an appropriate age, whenever you see that dawning suspicion that Santa may not be a material being, that means a child is ready for this conversation. And she says, I don't know, I'm saying she, might not be a mum, could be a dad. She says, I take them out for coffee at the local cafe or wherever. We get a booth, we order our drinks, and the following pronouncement is made. You sure have grown an awful lot this year. Not only are you taller, but I can see that your heart has grown too. You are a very generous and thoughtful sibling. You've been very caring with your friends. And you've been very helpful with mum and dad around the house. In fact, your heart has grown so much that I think you're ready to become a Santa Claus. You have probably noticed that most of the Santas you see are people dressed up like him. Some of your friends might even have told you that there is no Santa. A lot of children think that because they aren't ready to be Santa yet, but you are. And it says we then have a conversation with our child to choose someone they know and to be Santa for that person. The child's mission is to secretly, deviously find out something that the person needs and then provide it, wrap it, deliver it, and never reveal to the target where it came from. Being Santa or being a Santa isn't about getting credit. You see, it's unselfish giving. And I love this idea. I love this idea of sitting down with my child and explaining that Santa came from a real person who did a beautiful act of giving and caring. And it was so beautiful that The community held on to that act of giving. It became a legend. And the reason why Santa lives, and the reason why Santa is real, because Santa is within all of us. We make him real. We make him real by continuing those acts of giving, kindness and caring to one another. So Santa is real. Santa is in us. And now that you are old enough, you too can be Santa. You can be responsible for giving, loving and caring. You can be responsible for bringing that joy to someone else who still believes in Santa. And I look forward to having this conversation, I think soon, with my oldest child, because as a very thoughtful, sensitive individual, as many gifted children are, I think he will really recognise what that legend brings to us as a society, honouring, caring, giving, loving in this way. And I think that he will really revel in having that responsibility of bringing that joy to someone else. I can see us getting him involved in making that happen for his younger siblings. I imagine when we ask them in the future, what do you want from Santa this year? That he will enjoy being a part of that. He may even ask them himself, so what are you going to ask Santa to bring you this year? And I think that's going to be a very special moment for us and for him. And then as each child gets a bit older, to have that very special moment with them as a family. And also bring them in on that bigger conversation of what does Christmas mean to us? What does Christmas mean to our family? And think even for yourself as a parent, why do you do it? What does it mean to you? Certainly, it's about spending time with family. It's about showing them we care. One of the traditions that we have had as a family at Christmas is a game that we play. It's a fabulous game. And it's a game about gifts, but there's a twist at the end which makes it actually not about the gifts, not about the thing. So I'll explain it to you. Imagine you're all gathered on Christmas Day and you've got all your family over and you're all sitting down, you've had your Christmas meal, and then everyone brings out little gifts that they have bought in preparation for this game. Now, the idea is everyone brings half a dozen little gifts. Now, it's not about the value of the gift, and you'll see why in a minute, but everyone puts the gifts on the table. So you have this table overflowing with little gifts. Then you get out a set of dice, and you roll the dice, and you each take turn going around the table rolling the dice. And if you're a particularly big family, as we have been some Christmases with everyone making it, we have had 2 sets of dice going around the table. So it's pure carnage. So you roll the dice, and if you get a double, so 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s, you've got to get 2 of the same thing. If you roll 2 of the same thing, you get to pick a present off the table and put it in front of you, but you do not open it. You pass the dice on to the next person. They roll the dice. Sometimes you get 2, sometimes you don't. And you pass it on to the next person. You've got to do it quickly. And so the next person may get a double. And if they get a double, they get to pick a present from the middle of the table. So the dice goes around the table like this, and you keep rolling the dice, picking gifts every time you get a double. Now, eventually the gifts run out, but you do not stop rolling the dice. At any time in the game, even before the gifts have run out, it is perfectly acceptable, nay, absolutely encouraged, to take a gift from someone else. Now, if you've got little people at the table, of course, you do have to gauge this a little. If they're in on the game, it's a lot of fun. If they're a little bit like, don't take my presents, there can be tears. So a word of caution there. However, the idea is you roll the dice, you get a double. You take a gift either from the table or from someone else. Now, as you can imagine, if you took a gift from someone else and they rolled a double, well, they may well want that gift back. And then someone else on the table might decide, well, actually, I want that gift. And so we have had years where we have had one or two particular gifts that have gone from one end of the table to the other end of the table in a bit of a game to see who could get that particular gift. And we have had years when it's been quite funny to actually, everyone takes, say, grandpa's gifts. Or often if you take someone's gift, then they'll take one off you. And it becomes a very funny game of stealing gifts, as awful as that sounds out loud. I'm sorry, it does work and it's brilliant. So you keep rolling the dice. You've got no gifts left. We will often put a timer or say, right, 15 more minutes of dice rolling, and then you get to open whatever is in front of you at the end of that time. After 15 minutes of rolling the dice and taking a gift from someone else, and then maybe taking it back, or maybe they might get it from somewhere else on the table, and because sometimes people end up with a big pile and people at the table are like, hang on, you've got too many gifts, so I'll take one from you, or all sorts of shenanigans can occur. But the funny thing about this game is at the end, when you've finished rolling the dice, now this has gone on for some 20 or 30 minutes by this point, often, you get to the end of the game and everyone opens their gifts, only to find out that the one gift that has gone back and forth across the table for like 10 or 15 minutes being stolen from one person and then the next ends up being a roll of toilet paper. And it's hilarious because it's not about the gift, it's about the game. And the gifts are often silly things like that. A roll of toilet paper, a box of tissues, maybe a few chocolates, maybe a little kit. There's usually some nice gifts, as in something that's a little bit cool, and then a whole bunch of funny gifts or just something that's very unexpected and not anticipated. And of course that just becomes the next joke, is because you've been spending all this time fighting over a roll of toilet paper. And it's a great opportunity on Christmas Day to laugh, to join in the game of giving and taking, and that is Christmas, I guess. But at the end, realising, well, it's not about the gift, it's about sitting at the table together laughing and playing. Because for me, that's what makes Christmas. It's that sitting at the table, laughing and playing, hanging around, yes, eating lots. I'm definitely a food-loving person. But also just mooching and watching that Christmas movie. Or this year we've got hot weather here in Australia. We'll be having a swim on Christmas Day. So whatever your traditions are, and whatever conversations you have with your children about Santa, as they get older, as they ask those questions, it's an opportunity for us to let them in, to move from believing in Santa to being Santa, from being a child and to some extent being swept along on Christmas Day to becoming a young person and having a sense of input around some of our traditions and what we do on Christmas Day, and being a part of that preparation, because now they're a Santa too. So I hope that you have a lovely Christmas after what has been a very intense year. And I hope that you get a lot of laughter and joy on your Christmas Day, because I know that Christmas can also be a very challenging time for some people. So thank you very much for joining our Gifted Kids this year. It has been incredibly exciting to start the conversation about giftedness, and I greatly appreciate everyone who has come on the podcast so far. We've got some wonderful guests lined up already for next year, and I'm very excited to be bringing them to you. So have a wonderful Christmas, have a wonderful holidays, and I look forward to continuing the conversation next year. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode and it inspired you in some way, I'd love to hear about your biggest takeaway in the comments. For more episodes, you can subscribe, and to help others find our podcast, please leave a review. You can find show notes and more resources at ourgiftedkids.com, and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram.
See you in the same place next week. If you enjoyed this episode and it inspired you in some way, I'd love to hear about your biggest takeaway in the comments. For more episodes, you can subscribe, and to help others find our podcast, please leave a review. You can find show notes and more resources at ourgiftedkids.com, and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. See you in the same place next week.